rally. I'm quoting from an article in one of the papers. Many women brought their children. The march ended at the center where women spoke to the crowd, including Tina and Beth McHale, then Ms. Gay San Diego. Elaine Hines, a local musician, performed lesbian-focused songs before the rally ended, and Lesbian Avengers trademark fire-eating ritual. The ritual was instituted after the firebombing of an Oregon lesbian home during the anti-gay Proposition 9 initiative. 10 women swallowed fire as the crowd chanted, "The fire will not consume us. We'll take it and make it our own." Following the rally, DJ Chris kicked off the evening's dance with Aretha Franklin's Respect, and this is from the Gay and Lesbian Times July 94 article that was written. What happened, a little bit more history, there were 2 women whose home was firebombed in Oregon 2 weeks before the March on Washington. And at the March on Washington as well, there was a woman and her friend who live in Florida, and they were being sent death threats. Both of these people were HIV positive. And one of the death threats was, you will not have a home if you go to the March on Washington, if you leave your home. While they were at the March on Washington, their home was firebombed in Florida. Lesbian Avengers found out about that at the March on Washington, at the March on Washington. They caravanned down to Florida, escorting these 2 people back to their home, and sat vigil for, I believe, 2 weeks to make sure that they were okay and help them find housing. And because of that is the reason why Lesbian Avengers Eat Fire, that we will not allow this kind of violence to stop us from what we need to do, from our rioting, from our protests, from our equal rights. I am a fire eater. I was one of those 10 people, and if any lesbian avenger, any dyke march, vagina, which group are we talking about this year? Anyone wants to learn how to eat fire, I'm more than willing to teach you, and I would like to see that HERstory happen this year at Dyke March. It's a very empowering, spiritual happening.
I'll tell you why it didn't happen the last 2 years.
Why?
Because somebody told the fire marshal, and the fire marshal said we weren't allowed to do it. So it has to be spontaneous, so don't tell anybody till the time you do it.
Okay, that's easy to do.
Spontaneous combustion.
Spontaneous combustion.
Yeah.
Because if you mention it beforehand, somebody tells the fire marshal, and the fire marshal shuts you down because he is too spastic about it. That's why it didn't happen the last 2 years.
I know which one the fire marshal does it.
Because we practiced it, and we got everything ready, and there was a whole group of us that were gonna do it, and we didn't get to do it because the fire marshal said, "No, you can't," and he was there, and he was standing, his sphincter is so tight.
The tradition of Dyke March is that, one, we don't get permits. When we want to get on the streets, we get on the streets. We tell the authorities, and mind you, you shouldn't put this on tape, but well, it's going to be posterity. You don't tell the authorities you're going to take to the streets. Yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, we'll stay on the sidewalks, we'll be good girls. You don't need to get the permits. And you don't need to become commercialized doing Dyke March. Dyke March is about anarchy. It's about doing what we want to do, when we want to do it, how we want to do it, for the sake of lesbian activism, for the sake of being out there and open and radical and who and what we are, and being proud of who and what we are. We're not a gay pride parade. The first, one little story I have to share, the reason that lesbian solidarity happened in the first place was because lesbian solidarity in the lesbian community were not ready to give up having political marches. Nicole Ramirez Murray and the Imperial Court came along and they said, we want to be just like San Francisco. We want to have a parade with floats and balloons, and we want to celebrate who we are. Yes, there's a time and place for it. The lesbian community said, there's a time and a place, and we're not there yet. Women are still being discriminated against. Lesbians are still being discriminated against. Our children are being taken away from us. The men really didn't care about the children because a lot of them don't have kids. And that was their attitude. We don't care. We want to have a party. We want to have a parade. Lesbians stood up. They said, fine, we're going to boycott. And they did for 2 years and had Lesbian Solidarity March and Festival. We took over San Diego City College.
Yeah, City College.
And we had workshops, we had entertainment, we had Lesbian Solidarity March. It was one of the first marches I went to. Actually, the first one I went to was a Take Back the Night March. It was so empowering having hundreds of women together with signs saying, I am, and I am proud to be who I am. It was so empowering.
We also said we wanted some stuff. We wanted things.
Yep.
And we had signs that said a lot of that stuff. So, they don't call us the Grim Girls for nothing, because we keep bringing it back down to some kind of reality and rights and stuff. So it was, controversy and stuff.
It's 9:00, maybe we should open it up to.
Yeah. What do you want to know, y'all? Panel, what do you want to say that you haven't said?
I want to say a couple of things.
Sure.
Yeah, I would.
I've got little notes about things, and it's not quite put together yet, but I think that people who want to know about San Diego need to know that there were women's bookstores. The
Yeah.
women's store was on Beach Street. Paradigm came along on Kentner and then went to Adams. Charm Circle was on Park Boulevard for a while. These were lesbian bookstores for the most part, and feminist. And then there was Plum's Books on Lewis Street that had a lot of stuff for lesbians, and they were letting us meet there and have different kinds of conversations with famous lesbians from other places or people that had written books, women.
Wasn't there Wing
Wing Cafe.
Wing
Yeah.
Cafe was a
Yeah.
cafe though. I
Great,
also
great
wanted-
art space.
Well, you know
One
what
of
else we had?
Kathy
We
and Jimmy
had
was
that,
there.
lesbian
Yeah,
gym
Kathy
back
and
there.
Bo performed
what?
at the Wing
The
Cafe.
lesbian gym that right there near Wings Cafe, I can't remember it. Women's gym,
Yeah.
and I can't remember the name,
I
but
don't
right
either,
there.
I
yeah.
think they've been doing that.
We had lots of
Also in San Diego, there were
And we
lots
heard
of, not lots, but several, at least, very important collectives. And, I was told
Collectives work.
that Las Hermanas began, tell me if this is right, because I got it from a source. Las Hermanas started
your
as a
source?
big
No.
house in the east, and a lot of women were trying to get away from husbands, and they had children, and there were no battered women's shelters and things like that. There were some lesbians who made this house, 7 bedrooms or whatever, they were all living in there, and they didn't have that much money, and it was a collective.
That
And
came
out of
after, that came after Las Hermanas started.
Well,
There
that's
was
what she
one
told me,
woman-
that the house began, and they talked, and then they said, we've gotta have a place for lesbians, and so there you are, I don't know.
This
Gotta be
is why
sorted
we
out.
have to write our herstory down.
But anyway, there was a Walnut Street collective of lesbians, an Amalfi Street collective of women from UCSD who were lesbians but didn't want to say it, and they didn't even tell it to each other. I mean, it's that one of the kind of ironic things where you're in bed naked with a woman, and the next morning you wake up and you say, but I'm not a lesbian, I just like her. But anyway, they came out as lesbians later
Yeah,
on,
I
just to
learned-
go
I
up there and
learned.
have parties. And then there was a Keeney Castle. It had a lot of lesbians in it, but they also had a few men. They were like hippies in those days. They were nice to get along with. And they would like make art, and there were lots of lesbians, and the guys didn't seem to mind, and everybody got along pretty well and everything. But there were some nice lesbian parties out there in the early days when there weren't many places for us to go. So collectives was kind of an interesting thing. And I'll tell you about women's music: Stone's Throw, Tobacco Road, Sue Palmer, Molly Stone, Misbehavin', Sisters on Stage, Longtime Friends, a lot of stuff like that.
Kathy
In
Mosho.
case you're
Kathy.
doing some kind of research. I heard there was a research person here somewhere. Okay.
Kathy
Got
and Mo
this.
performed at the Flame, but Kathy and Jimmy was she
Was part of
greeted. Yeah, she
Wing
did-
Cafe, yeah.
Yeah.
She did her stand-up comedy at Wing Cafe.
I just know she greeted me one time, and then I saw her on TV.
Yeah,
No, she did stuff at Wing Cafe.
Yeah,
Kathy and Mo, they were starting out
right.
and did some of their routines at Wing
Right.
Cafe. And a side note, Maureen Gaffney and I went to high school together.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Where?
Claremont High School.
Add something?
Oh, yeah, please, Teresa.
One thing that I think is really, really important in future actions is letting the media know. I mean, at the first Dykes and Friends March, which we labeled that so that it would appeal to a broader audience. The march was one thing, but in the 2 years that Wendy Sue and I did it, really most people showed up for the rally. And it was really great. Both years Channel 6 came. The second year, I think we had 3 TV channels there. As far as supporting youth and young people, San Diego has an overwhelming population of homeless youth, and the majority of those youth are turned away from their families because they're GLBT. And a lot of these youth only have magazines to read if they happen to come to Hillcrest. So one really important thing is not only having your actions for each other, but getting them seen in the media, letting all of the main papers like the Union Tribune know, letting all of the KPBS to, you know, the sensationalist news that you might find on cable. It's really important to have them have even a blip, because if these kids can find this, they're less likely to commit suicide, and the suicide rate is astronomical. So that's one thing that I really think is important. You know, you can have your actions, like we did the Dykes and Friends marches with no permit. You know, the center was totally
I
fine with
insisted
that.
on it.
Yeah, and I really find the value in that too, but getting the word out in a different way is really important, so letting people actually see it, whatever it is that you do.
I find that it's really hard with the media for them to get out. I mean, we can send stuff and send stuff and send stuff, and one of the tricks is to continue to keep us invisible. That we inform the media, especially the straight media, about things that are going on, and they don't send people out there because it's not newsworthy to them. Your average march is like, oh yeah, gay pride, whatever. You know, gay pride happened again. You know,
We need more
they show.
riots. We need to have a couple of riots, they'd show up for that.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
way.
For negatives.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they show, you know,
Let's
a couple
give
of
them
dancing
something
boys
sensational.
and,
Come on.
you know, the riches float and a couple of, you know, the leather folk for, you know, 15
Guys in little
seconds.
bikinis is always good.
Yeah,
And
that's all we get.
Something
I see on the
about
news,
the Myth California protest.
Oh, yeah, that
We
was
had
fun.
no money, and we got so much media attention, we couldn't even believe it. Every day there was at least 2 or 3 things on it, and some of the things we did were, we had funny signs, and we had costumes, and
I
we
was
had
Ms.
humor,
Fat San Diego.
and we had a song, or we had a couple of songs. Now the whole thing is if you've got a guy with a camera, if you've ever been a photographer, what do you want to take pictures of? You want to take pictures of that lady in a meat bathing suit.
Mm-hmm.
You want to take a picture of the guy in the butterfly costume. So those are the kinds of things, and you say this is what's going to happen. There's going to be a civil disobedience. And so you do some kind of, you know, act, and boy, they love coming out to take pictures of that sensational stuff. But in the meantime, you've got your signs, and you tell everybody who's might be on camera, you know, like a 4-second sound bite, and everybody says it because that's your message. You can go on forever, but they're not going to show it at night. They'll do that really short thing. But the visuals are very important for free coverage.
Mm-hmm. The possibility of arrest will bring media out. But, you know, if it's your everyday thing that we've been doing for 30 years, gay pride, yeah. I want to say, Teresa and I, the first year that we produced the Dykes and Friends March, we produced it on $300. It took the $300 out of my pocket, and most of that went for publicity. It was the second years that we brought Copper Women, right?
Yeah, the only person that we shelled out any money for were an a cappella group that are amazing activists that we brought
You've
from
got to
San
bring them
Francisco.
down from San Francisco. They're so
Yeah,
good.
we only paid for their plane ticket